The air in the dining room crystallized as my mother-in-law's words hung between us. "Sophia, dear, I hope you understand that this needs to be just family." Her perfectly manicured hand patted mine with false sympathy, while her eyes gleamed with triumph. "You can surely find something to do while Jacob enjoys some quality time with his parents and sister." The expensive rental china she'd been passing off as family heirlooms suddenly seemed garish under the chandelier light. Around the table, expressions froze. Jacob half rising from his seat, his sister Natalie studying her wine glass, his father Robert suddenly fascinated by his napkin fold. The cruise brochure for Royal Crown Cruises lay open between us. The Mediterranean voyage on the ship I'd personally approved the design plans for last spring. The owner's suite she'd been bragging about for the past 20 minutes had my personal touches in every corner. "My name is Pamela, I'm 28 and an executive in the hospitality industry. This is the story of how my mother-in-law's attempt to exclude me from a family vacation revealed the true meaning of class." Growing up as the daughter of William Kennedy, founder and owner of Royal Crown Cruises, I learned early that true wealth isn't displayed. It's demonstrated through how you treat others. My father built his business on exceptional service and environmental responsibility, not exclusivity or pretension. When I met Jacob at one of our ports 3 years ago, he was working as a marine biologist on our coral reef preservation project. What drew me to him was his authentic passion for his work and complete disinterest in status symbols, the opposite of his family's values. I never told him about my family's ownership of Royal Crown Cruises immediately. I introduced myself simply as Pamela from Guest Relations. I wanted him to know me for myself, not my family name or position. When we fell in love, it was genuine. No wealth calculations or status assessments. Jacob's family was another matter entirely. His mother Irene lived in a world where appearances weren't just important. They were everything. Credit cards stretched to their limits to maintain the facade of wealth. Designer labels displayed prominently. Constant name-dropping and not-so-subtle inquiries about my family's financial situation. "Oh, you work for a cruise line?" Irene had asked during our first meeting, her voice dripping with judgment. "In what capacity?" "Customer relations," I'd replied, not mentioning I was actually directing global guest experience for the entire fleet. At our wedding last year, a simple beach ceremony on one of our private islands that I'd described to his family as a quiet local beach, Irene had sighed dramatically. "Really, Jacob, couldn't you have chosen somewhere more prestigious? I'll have to tell my friends it was a destination wedding just to save face." For 12 months, I'd endured her increasingly transparent hints about her disappointment in her son's choice of wife, links to job postings for better positions, suggestions about clothing stores where people of quality shopped, comments about how some people just don't understand the importance of maintaining appearances. I took it all in stride, partly because Jacob was worth it and partly because I knew the truth would eventually come out. I just didn't expect it to happen the way it did. Which brings us back to that dining room table, with Irene uninviting me from a family cruise on my own ship. "Are you uninviting my wife from a family vacation?" Jacob's voice cut through the silence, his knuckles white against the tablecloth. "Don't be dramatic, darling," Irene waved dismissively. She wasn't really invited in the first place. She turned to me with a smile that never reached her eyes. "I mean, you work for a cruise line. You can probably get your own discount voyage somewhere more suitable." I could see Jacob preparing for an explosion, but I placed my hand on his arm. This moment belonged to me. "You're right, Irene," I said quietly, pulling out my phone. "I do have some connections in the cruise industry." I dialed a familiar number and put it on speaker. "Royal Crown Cruises Executive Office. How may I help you?" My father's voice came through clearly. "Hi, Dad," I said sweetly, watching Irene's face. "Remember that Mediterranean cruise booking for the Gardner family next month? The one in the owner's suite? I'm afraid we need to cancel it." The silence in the room deepened. Irene's expression transformed from smug to confused to horrified in the span of seconds. "Dad," she whispered, the color draining from her face. "Of course, sweetheart," my father replied. "May I ask why?" "The owner's suite is your personal cabin. Did you and Jacob decide to use it that week instead?" Irene made a sound like air escaping a punctured tire. No, actually, I continued, maintaining eye contact with my mother-in-law. It seems there was a misunderstanding about family invitations. I wouldn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable on their cruise. Understood, Dad said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. I'll have their deposit refunded immediately. Will you be joining us for the board meeting tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it, I replied. Thanks, Dad. Love you. I ended the call and placed my phone back in my bag, then took a deliberate sip of water while everyone processed what had just happened. Your father. What? Irene stammered, her fingers clutching the edge of the table. Oh, I'm sorry, I said. I thought you knew, since you seem to know so much about Royal Crown Cruises. My father is William Kennedy, the owner. I'm not just an employee. I'm the director of global guest experience and heir to the company. I gestured to the brochure she'd been flaunting all evening. That owner suite you booked? It's actually my personal cabin, reserved for my family's use. I was going to surprise you all by upgrading your booking to our best family package, but since I'm not family enough to be included. Jacob was trying desperately not to laugh. Natalie had her hand over her mouth. Robert looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Irene opened and closed her mouth several times before managing to speak. But you work in customer relations. I do, I nodded, along with operations management, environmental initiatives, and strategic planning. Dad believes in understanding every aspect of the business. I paused meaningfully. Something about maintaining appropriate standards. The irony of her earlier comments about standards was not lost on anyone at the table. Irene pushed back her chair suddenly. I need to. Excuse me. She practically ran from the room. Pamela, I am so sorry. We had no idea. Robert cleared his throat. Of course you didn't, I said kindly. We kept it private because we wanted to be treated normally. Jacob loves me for who I am, not what I own. That's all I wanted from his family, too. I can't believe Mom tried to uninvite you from a cruise you own, Natalie said, finally letting out the laugh she'd been holding in. This is better than any reality TV show. Irene didn't return to the dinner table that evening. We heard her upstairs, alternating between crying and making phone calls, probably to all the friends she'd bragged to about her upcoming luxury cruise. As we were leaving, Robert pulled me aside. Is there any way to, could we possibly? The cruise booking? I smiled. I haven't actually canceled it, but if it's going to happen, some things need to change. Over the next few weeks, Irene underwent a remarkable transformation. Gone were the snide comments about my job and the not-so-subtle digs about social status. Instead, she became almost comically polite, constantly praising Royal Crown Cruises and awkwardly trying to show interest in my work. I read an article about your coral reef protection program, she mentioned one day, clearly having done some homework. It's very impressive. Thank you, I replied. Would you like to learn more about it? We're actually doing some exciting new research. Slowly, painfully, Irene began to realize that her obsession with status and appearances had nearly cost her family an amazing opportunity, not just for a luxury cruise, but for a real relationship with her son and daughter-in-law. A month later, we all boarded the Mediterranean cruise together. Irene, Robert, Natalie, Jacob, and me. I'd kept my word about upgrading them to our best family package, with connecting suites and VIP access to all the ship's amenities. On our first night at sea, we had dinner at the captain's table. Irene was uncharacteristically quiet as she looked around the elegant dining room. Pamela, she finally said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. I owe you an apology, not just for the dinner incident, but for everything. I've been so focused on appearing wealthy that I couldn't see what real class looks like. Which is? I asked. Treating people with respect, she replied, like you and your father do. I've been on this ship for less than a day, and I've seen how the crew looks at you. Not because they're afraid of you or impressed by your title, but because they genuinely respect you. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Welcome to the real family business, Irene. The rest of the cruise was transformative for all of us. Irene stopped trying to impress everyone and started actually enjoying herself. Robert revealed a surprising talent for karaoke at the ship's nightclub. Natalie fell in love with our marine biology program and ended up applying for an internship. And Jacob, he just smiled and said, "I told you they'd come around eventually." Now, 6 months later, our family dinners are actually pleasant. Irene still occasionally slips into her old habits, but she catches herself quickly. She's even started volunteering with some of our cruise line's charitable initiatives. Last week, she called me in tears. "Pamela, I just found out that Margaret Thompson, my friend who's always bragging about her wealth, she's booked a cruise with one of your competitors." I noted her use of "your competitors" with amusement, and this is upsetting because Royal Crown is so much better. Their environmental record is terrible, and I heard they don't treat their staff well at all. Couldn't you help me get her a booking with us instead? I want her to experience a real luxury cruise. I smiled into the phone. "You know what, Irene? I think I can arrange that." Later that evening, as Jacob and I were having dinner in our home overlooking the harbor, he asked me if I ever regretted not telling his family about my background sooner. "Not at all," I replied. "Everything happened exactly when it needed to. Your mother needed to learn that lesson about real class and status." "And the fact that you got to dramatically reveal everything at that dinner had nothing to do with it?" he teased. "Well," I grinned, "I won't say that wasn't satisfying, but the best part is that it led to actual change. Your mother's finally understanding what my father always taught me. True luxury isn't about showing off or excluding others. It's about creating experiences that bring people together." Jacob raised his glass. "To family cruises." "To family cruises," I agreed, "and to mothers-in-law who learn their lessons. We're planning another family cruise for next year. Irene is already making lists of activities she wants to try, without a single mention of what other people might think. Robert is excited about the new golf simulator we're installing. Natalie's going to join us during her break from the marine biology program. And me? I'm just happy that my family, both the one I was born into and the one I married into, has finally found its balance. The owner suite that Irene tried to exclude me from? We've renamed it the family suite, because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making room for everyone at the table, even those who once tried to keep you away from it. Dad still gets a chuckle out of the whole story. He's even used it as an example in our company's customer service training, though he changed the names to protect the reformed. "Remember," he tells new employees, "every guest on our ships deserves to be treated like family, even if they're not technically the owner's daughter-in-law." Irene overheard him saying this once during a ship tour and actually laughed. "I deserve that," she admitted, "but I'm learning." Yes, she is. We all are. And our next family cruise? It's going to be amazing, because this time everyone's truly welcome. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.